What's going on, guys? I'm the Filmmaker and I love movies, and welcome back to another video. Welcome back to, of course, the series that I do on the channel every month. At the beginning of every month, I recap the last month, and today we're going to be looking at every film that I watched in March 2021. Now, this month I watched 80 films, so that was a little more than February, but then again, February, you've got 28 days in the month. In March you've got 31, but of course January. Still haven't been able to top the 87. Don't know if I ever will. I still am quite baffled how I got to that number. But yeah, 80 still quite a lot of films. So I don't want to waste any time because this video is going to be long enough as it is, and I'm going to be putting in a little more effort and a little more time into this because I've put timestamps now to every single film that I talk about, in case, you know, maybe you want to find out my thoughts on a certain film. You can very easily navigate to that film now, so hopefully that's okay, and you know, if that's a useful feature, let me know and I might do that for now. Every now new episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I kicked off the month with Secret Honor. This was an Altman film, and it was very interesting. It was set just in one location. I can tell you that Philip Baker Hall, the only actor in the film, gives a tremendous performance. Altman does some great things with the camera, but ultimately it's one long 90-minute monologue. That's the whole film, a 90-minute monologue. So I enjoyed it as much as I think I will ever enjoy this film, but it was still really interesting and something I recommend. It's something different, it's something really interesting. Then I watched My Dinner with Andre, something quite similar to that last film because My Dinner with Andre pretty much set in one location, but in this film you actually have two characters having a conversation, and their conversations go from really interesting and engaging. Sometimes I would like to switch off and kind of just think about how these conversations connect to my life. Again, just a really interesting and fascinating film, and again, the framing that's used in this film is really interesting and really well done. There's some great topics covered through these conversations and great performances by Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory. Then I watched Ashes and Diamonds. Now, this is actually one of the films that Martin Scorsese included in his top 40 films that you should watch. So don't just take this recommendation from me, take this from Scorsese as well. By the way, I watched this before even, you know, that list was even out there, I think. So I was very happy about that because it's a Polish film directed by Andrzej Wajda. Quite, you know, it's not very well known, I wouldn't think. Not many people that I follow on Letterboxd have actually watched the film, but it is certainly an interesting watch. I mean, the opening scene is close to masterful. I love the opening scene, but it seeps into more of a disinteresting characters in the latter half of the film. Can become slightly disinteresting that, you know, maybe I should rewatch it, maybe it was going to be something there. But it was really, you know, it's basically these guys kill the wrong person, these assassins, so, and then one of them grows. Just watch it, it's really well done. There's some great, it's shot in black and white, it looks fantastic. So yeah, I recommend it. Then I watched The Exterminating Angel. This was Louis Buñuel, and the plot is actually quite interesting. Of course, it's classic Buñuel, kind of exposing the bourgeoisie for what they are. These rich people who gather for a dinner party can't leave the room, and so they're trapped there, and then of course, you know, and there's nothing stopping them, they just can't leave it. It's quite fantastical in that sense. And yeah, and they're kind of just exposed for who they are. They're not these kind of supreme people, they're human. They're just like us, but even worse. Then I watched New York. New York, meant to be like, this was like a really hard to find Scorsese film actually. And it was, well, I'd describe it as similar to Spielberg's 1941. It's a massive, overblown Hollywood production from a young, incredibly promising director, but the film doesn't quite work. It's a musical. De Niro is actually really good in the film, and you've got Eliza Minnelli as well, who's great in this film. The two have great chemistry. There's some fantastic musical numbers. Pretty much the final 30 minutes is just one incredible, massive musical number. It's really incredible, but I'm not the biggest musical fan, so I wasn't exactly hooked, shall I say, in that. And it's pretty long as well. It's almost 3 hours, so the runtime could definitely have been chopped down. Then I watched The Last Waltz. Now this is without a doubt Scorsese's best it's his best music documentary. It was his first as well, 1978. And it is actually regarded as one of the greatest rock concert films, and I'd agree with that sentiment. It is really good because not only is it just a rock concert film, but it's a celebration. It is the band, that's what they're called, this band is called The Band, and it was their final kind of outing as a band together. And interesting enough, the lead guy, Robbie Robertson, he's actually done some scores for some Scorsese films. He did the score for The Irishman as well, and he's also the music supervisor in pretty much all of his films. So yeah. Then I watched Boys Don't Cry. This was good. This was very, I mean, the performance by Hilary Swank was really good. She was great in this film. Really powerful. It doesn't really need any fancy cinematography or anything like that. The script is slightly uneven. It could have had a little tinkering, a little kind of, it wasn't very refined, I would say. So yeah, the main problem with this film was just the script wasn't very refined. Then I watched The Player. This film is so much fun. I highly recommend this to anyone, and I do not understand you if you do not have fun with this film. It has a star-studded cast. I mean, not all of them have big roles, but it's set in Hollywood, so you've got people playing people, you know. You've got Burt Reynolds, and he's playing Burt Reynolds, and it's just so funny. So well made as well. Really meta. Really, it's on Amazon Prime in the UK. Don't sleep on this one. It's really funny. Whoopi Goldberg's in it and she's great. Everyone's great. I just had a massive smile on my face when I was watching this film. I do think it does get a little too meta towards the end though. It was just like, yeah, it just got a little too meta for me, but still it was a great time. Then I watched Coming to America. And I was pleasantly surprised by this. I actually really liked it. It was really funny and just a good time. If you haven't seen Coming to America, go watch it. It's worth your time. It's a classic. Just go watch it. And I wish I could say the same for the sequel, but no. I watched Coming to America. Yeah, with the number 2. I could say a lot about this film. I don't really want to, other than it's really bad. And just don't watch it. It's not funny. It's just bad. Just don't watch it, please. Then I watched Raging Bull. Wow, the editing is superb in this. I think I forgot how good the editing was in this film. Same with the direction, cinematography, performances, all knockouts. See what I did there? Knockouts? No? Okay. Okay, so you feel every punch in this film. It is so well done, but I do feel like a lot of the scenes, some of the scenes, especially in the middle, are dragged out a bit. But I really enjoyed like the last 30 minutes. De Niro is just superb in this as well. I mean, if you haven't seen Raging Bull, just go and watch it. You'll learn a lot from it if you're a filmmaker. And plus, even if you're not a filmmaker, you're gonna just enjoy it, aren't you? You're gonna enjoy the fantastic cinematography. You're gonna enjoy the fantastic editing in this because it is really that good. Yep, I finally watched The Matrix. I can't believe it. I haven't seen The Matrix up until this point, and I loved it. This was awesome. The visuals are incredible. The story is so cool. The concept, it's just like, wow. It's very high concept, but it's put on this action film and it works so well. I cannot wait to pick this up on 4K. I bet it's gonna look great. I loved all the characters. Trinity and Morpheus and Neo, all of them were great. You know, do I have to mention the action sequences in this film? They're brilliant. Hugo Weaving, the cast is absolutely brilliant. If you haven't seen The Matrix, come on, just watch it because I've just gotten around to it and it's great, so go watch The Matrix. Then I watched Mistress America. This just felt, I think I've seen this before. Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach, I've seen this New York college story. With Greta Gerwig again playing pretty much Greta Gerwig's shtick that she does. It's nothing new. It was just kind of, I don't get why people, it's got moderately good reviews. I don't get that. Then I watched 3 Buster Keaton short films, The Convict 13, The Scarecrow and Neighbours. Well, the only thing that I wrote for The Scarecrow was that the pacing was excellent. It's just lovely, it's great stunts, and Keaton definitely ups his game now. He's directing and writing. It's that Keaton charm, it just severely lacked in the other Fatih Arbuckle films. Then I watched Kajmusha. I did a Criterion Corner episode on that film. It's excellent, I highly recommend it, but just watch my in-depth review on it if you really want to hear my thoughts. Then I watched Little Caesar. This was okay. It was fine. It's 1931. It was one of kind of the first gangster films. You've got Edward G. Robinson. He's pretty good in it. But I kind of just, I didn't really connect with this one that much. It's not essential. Then I watched The King of Comedy. I missed, the next film I'm going to talk about is After Hours, and I really do miss these funny Scorsese films, and he does kind of retread his kind of comedic roots from King of Comedy and After Hours in The Wolf of Wall Street. The Wolf of Wall Street's really funny. These two films are really funny as well. He does comedy really well, and it works for the King of Comedy so well in this. De Niro is so good in this. And I've seen this 3 times now. It holds up so well on rewatch. And of course, talking about After Hours, this it is really great. Just some of the loads of shots are so good. The cast is great. It's very funny. I mean, the comedic elements work fantastically. I want to watch this like really late at night. Start it at midnight or something, because it is like that. It takes place over a whole night in New York, and he's kind of, crazy stuff happens as the night progresses. Then I watched The Hustler. This was more focused on the character rather than the game of pool. Snooker, pool. It's not very interesting in this film. It's actually quite dull watching them, hit the balls around the table. It's more about Paul Newman's performance and his acting and his character. That's the heart of the film, and it really works. I think the first 30 minutes don't grab you as they should. I wasn't grabbed by the film. I was quite disappointed, but I was thinking, what's going on here? What's happening? I wasn't. But then when it progressed and when things started to happen, it's really quite good. And then I watched The Colour of Money, Scorsese's only sequel. This was a continuation of that story. And this is more about snooker than it is about the characters. The characters are fine in this film. It's more about the snooker, and Scorsese directs it so well. Like, it's his kind of precursor to Goodfellas in that sense. The way it's edited, the shots he uses, and the pacing and stuff. Even though the 2 hours long this film is, it feels like 3. Pacing is awful. And the screenplay is just really uneven. But still, a really great film. Really underrated Scorsese. I really enjoyed this. Then I watched Cherry. The way I would describe this film is a hollow mess. Now, I know most people kind of, I wouldn't say gave it a pass, but they didn't hate it on the same level I hated it. Because the choices made in this film are beyond baffling. I quote unquote artistic choices were just awful. It tries to be so many other films. It tries to be Full Metal Jacket. It tries to be Trainspotting. It tries to be Goodfellas. It just tries to be so many things, and it steals and borrows off so many styles. I don't get what the Russo brothers are doing here. I don't understand what was going through their head. I don't get them as directors. They go and make Marvel films, and obviously they can't go crazy artistic or anything on those. They've got to be quite, conservative in that respect. So then they have the chance to finally make a film, that isn't Marvel, with violence and swearing and all that, and it's just so bad. This is like one of the worst films I've seen, just because of how messy it is. Like I said, it's a hollow mess. I hate that about this film. I hate that. And also Tom Holland is terribly miscast. He gives a good performance, but he's terribly miscast. Then I watched The Matrix Reloaded. This was not bad, actually. I thought many of the sequences, especially the action in this film, were really good. Had a good time with it. Still, it really dips down in quality from The Matrix. I don't get what was going on here. There's some really silly moments in the film, but it's still, it's not as bad as The Matrix Revolutions. That was, not good. It was kind of like the big epic battle that the whole trilogy was building to. And sure, it was a big battle, moderately epic, but I didn't feel anything. And I think it just got really messy. It just really wasn't that good. Then I watched Last Temptation of Christ, which I had a very hard time trying to rate this film, because it's very spiritual. It's very calm. It's very long. Well, it's not very long. It's quite long. It's almost 3 hours, I think. And it just tells the story of Jesus, carrying the cross and getting crucified and things like that. And I'm not religious in any respect whatsoever, you know, but it was very interesting to see this and what Scorsese does. Willem Dafoe's performance is so good in this film. Everyone's really quite good. I think Harvey Keitel was okay. He wasn't great. But yeah, there's nothing inherently terrible or bad about the film. It's not something I'm going to be revisiting often, if that. It's not the most engaging. You know, some sequences can go on for quite a while and not engage me that much, but it's still really well made and very spiritual. I like, yeah. Then I watched Cape Fear, the original Cape Fear, which is really quite good. Great direction. The performances by Gregory Peck, Robert Michigan. Those two guys are really great in the film. I'd recommend, if you've seen Scorsese's remake, I'd recommend watching the original, because the original is quite good. Then I watched Serpico, and it was overall pretty good. The direction, writing, editing, performances, all good. The opening was a highlight. It does dip. The runtime could have been around 20 minutes. Could have shaved off 20 minutes, I think. It was a good watch. Then I watched The Warriors, which I wasn't crazy about. It is the definition of a cult classic. I'm not part of that cult. I didn't think it was all that good. Yeah, it was just fine. Like, I wasn't invested, I wasn't connected. It just might have not been my cup of tea, really. I enjoyed the beginning, and then someone dies, and I was like, oh, okay, then it kicks off this whole thing, and it's just like, okay, it just wasn't all that good. And then I watched Goodfellas for like the 100th time. My favourite scene in this film would have to be every single scene. It's just so good. I don't really know what to say about this because I've already watched it, I believe, this year as well. I've seen it twice already this year. It's one of my favourite films of all time. It's incredible. I just love it. I love the film. The soundtrack is just perfect. It's so good. Then I watched Cape Fear, and yes, I believe it's better than the original because it's injected with so much energy and fun, and all the editing and the choice to stick with Bernard Herrmann's original score was a really great choice because you cannot compete with that. His score for the original film was great, so I'm glad they decided to stick with it. The performances, I've already seen this, I rewatched it, and when I first watched it, I thought Robert De Niro was okay, and I was a little nervous because then I thought maybe he wouldn't be that great, and he's really quite good, and Nick Nolte as well. All the actors, because the daughter in the original wasn't interesting, the actress didn't do a very good job, and she wasn't very well written, but in this film, Juliette Lewis, I believe, that's the actress who plays her. She's really great in this film. The daughter character, she has a lot more to do. She has more of a character to her. That's really good. Then I watched Vera Drake, which I really liked. It is so well constructed. I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about the film, but it really sold me on all the brilliant performances, especially Amandla Thornton, who gives an incredible performance. And it isn't big, it isn't a loud Hollywood performance. She's just the most loveliest person you will ever meet. She's just so good and it's so heartbreaking. I don't want to ruin anything for anyone, just go watch the film. It's such a good British film. I really want to get more. It's my first Mike Leigh film as well. I've already fell in love with Mike Leigh. I really hope when I watch more of his films that they really get to higher heights than Vera Drake. Nothing was even inherently bad about Vera Drake, and I will be rewatching it eventually one day because it was really good, but it wasn't like on the level of incredibleness, but it was still really good. I really recommend it. Then I watched about 5 Buster Keaton short films, and by the way, spoiler alert, I still haven't finished the box set. Next month, April, I'll be finishing it off, but yes, I watched Hard Luck, The Goat, The Playhouse, The Boat, and The Pale Face. I wrote one thing about Hard Luck just saying it's more Buster Keaton fun. A lot of these short films kind of blend into one, but all of them have very distinct kind of big stunt set pieces, which was really nice. But like I said, a lot of them just blend into one. And you can't really say something unique for every single short film. Then I gave The Age of Innocence a rewatch. If you couldn't already tell, yes, I'm going through Scorsese's filmography, and I enjoy this more than I'd ever expect to enjoy it. It's not something that I would think that I would enjoy, an 1870s New York high society romance. Didn't think, that it doesn't seem like the cup of tea but I actually really like it. Scorsese does a great job directing it. Then I watched Henry V. I believe V means fifth. I wasn't paying that much attention to the film because it was just so boring. And it's a Shakespeare, Kenneth Branagh, and I'm not against Shakespeare at all. On the contrary, I really enjoy Shakespeare. I've acted in the plays, I've studied his plays, I've watched his plays acted out live many times, different plays. I've read his plays, I've watched films of his plays and really enjoyed them. I enjoy Shakespeare, okay? So I was expecting to enjoy this film since it is, you know, it's the Shakespeare dialogue, Shakespeare acting, but I didn't at all. I think it's best most of the time watching a Shakespeare play on the stage, watching the live performances rather than film, because I think Polanski's Macbeth was quite good, but yeah, it was quite good, but a lot of the Shakespeare adaptations that I watch of films aren't as good as they are on stage, you know, acted out properly on the stage as they're meant to be. And then I watched Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. It's been a film that I've been meaning to rewatch for a long time because I used to say to people, I like it, I'm a fan of the film. Not anymore. I'm glad I rewatched it because it's really messy, really uneven. The best part about the film is the music, but even then the music is so overused and so regularly used that it drowns the film down. You know, you've got brilliant music here, don't use it all the time, because it doesn't have the impact, and everything just feels rushed about this film. Even though I watched the ultimate cut, I watched the full 3-hour thing, and it was just, yeah, it just really wasn't constructed at all very well. It was just, yeah, I would just call it a mess. Then I watched Casino. This is, you know, I love this style of Scorsese where he approaches these films. It's fantastic. So many moments of filmmaking, which I adore, just made me grin with its brilliance in this film. I was just smiling away at just all these shots. I was like, oh, if I could make anything as close, as good as this film, I will just, you know, I don't know what I would do. I don't know if that's even possible because it's just, it's so good. It's also probably one of his most devastating films, especially with character relationships. That's what I'm trying to talk about here. With Sharon Stone's character and Robert De Niro's character, their relationship is very not nice to watch. It gets quite ugly towards the end, I must say, and sometimes it can get a little too much, especially at the end, but it's still a really fantastic film. Then I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Yeah, as you can see, it's got a very low rating. It's actually my most liked review. I can't believe it. It's actually my most liked review on Letterboxd. It's got 18 likes, and this film, a lot of people love. A lot of people really enjoyed, and I'm in the minority here that doesn't. I think it's a bad film. I really do think it's bad. I did write a very long Letterboxd review, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'm sure the crazy Snyder fans and the people who are calling it a masterpiece, which I physically cannot stand when people call it that, because obviously they've never seen. I mean, yeah, obviously they've never, you know, this is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to kind of, you know, poop on the Zack Snyder Justice League party or anything. If I wanted to like the film. I wasn't going in to hate it. I'm glad people enjoy it because it's been something anticipated and wanted for so long. So now we've finally got it. I'm glad people are happy with it and people think it's good. If they think it's a masterpiece, good for them. But for me, watching my personal opinion, I didn't think so at all. I will say it's definitely an improvement on the theatrical cut. I mean, who doesn't want fleshed out characters, who giving characters actual motivations? If you think the theatrical cut is better, sure, enjoy it. Enjoy terrible written characters. Because that's what it is in here. I mean, unless you're referring to maybe the runtime and things, because yeah, this is 4 hours. Maybe it doesn't need to be 4 hours long, but it is his fine. It is his cut. It's everything in here. And I will say this: that the Joker scene was laughably bad. Then I watched Kundun. All I can say is it's not bad, it's not good, it's overall very boring. There's some great filmmaking techniques in this, but it isn't essential Scorsese. By no means, if you're a Scorsese completist and you love his work like I do, then watch it because, well, you've got to if you love his work that much. But it's not. I would not recommend this. No, it is not engaging. It's not that. It's not boring. It's borderline probably a bad film, but hell, I'm very happy to say that he's never made a terrible bad film. Kundun is just very boring in parts, but I will say the opening is really nice. Again, it's quite spiritual. It's one of his religious films. yeah. And then I watched His Girl Friday, which I wasn't a massive fan of. It was moderately funny. I was expecting something on the same lines as Bringing Up Baby, which was delightful. I really enjoyed that film. This film is directed by Howard Hawks, who also directed Bringing Up Baby. It's got Cary Grant in, so I was expecting something very similar to that. And it is, you know, with the dialogue and things, but it just didn't hit as hard as that film. And then I watched Bringing Out the Dead, another Scorsese film that wasn't that essential. It's just fine. I wish it went darker, I wish it went grittier. He does really well. He does capture the rush and chaos of this job that this character has to go through. But apart from that, it's nothing that impressed me that much. And then I watched Another Round, which right now it's my favourite film of 2020. I would say Nomadland is the best film of 2020, but Another Round ranks higher just because I had so much more fun with Another Round. I mean, Nomadland is just a beautiful film, and Another Round is just a lot of fun, actually. It's about these, I mean, you probably already know it, but it's about these guys who decide to stay moderately drunk, and it's meant to like improve their lives. And it seems it might work, actually. It does seem like an interesting concept. I just think it's a really good drama, you know. It's really good at looking at these characters, these men, and why they do it, their relationships, how this thing that they're doing is tarnishing these relationships with people and their job and stuff like that. And plus the ending is just, I love the ending. So good. Then I watched a Prairie Home Companion. This is Robert Altman's final film before he sadly passed away. It's one of his big ensemble star-studded cast: Meryl Streep, Woody Harrelson, Tommy Lee Jones, a few others as well, but they're kind of the main people. And yeah, it is kind of one of his classic style of, you know, a really almost constantly moving camera. It's a mixture of films because it reminds me of Nashville, a little bit like The Long Goodbye, and a little bit like The Player, all combined together. But like Nashville, it didn't, you know, it's just his style, not yet, because I did watch a few of his other films this month, and I can tell you that Shortcuts, which will be coming up, I think is his best film and my favourite of his, and that is in the same vein as this film in Nashville. So it does work for me. It's just the characters. I don't think that they're just like, he hits the nail on the head with the characters in Shortcuts, but in the other films that he does in the same vein as this one, didn't really grab me as much as Shortcuts did. Then I watched Gangs of New York. This was very big, high production. The production design, the costumes are just the best, and the acting. That's the main things, especially Daniel Day-Lewis, obviously. How could you not mention him in this film? I found the plot does wear a little thin for almost a 3-hour-long film. The first 30 minutes were great, and the final 30 minutes were great. Everything else in between that was hit and miss. And then I watched The Aviator. This was, I think DiCaprio's performance was really good in this. Some people say that he can't really lead for 3 hours, sorry. And I can see that. I thought he was really good. When it began, I thought it was going to be a fantastic top-tier Scorsese film. It's not. It's still pretty good, though. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's quite good, yeah. And then I watched Dear Zachary, a letter to a son about his father. This documentary wrecked me. This is the highest rated film I've rated the whole year for as a first time watch, and I likely will never watch it again. That's probably why it's so highly rated. The only time I'll ever watch it again is if I'm watching it with someone. But it is a truly gut-wrenching film. It is. Just don't look into this film. I know this statement that I'm making now is probably going to make you curious about it. Do not to look into this. Don't watch the trailer. Don't read the synopsis. Just find the damn thing and watch it. And get ready for some tissues, because I didn't cry in this film. I've never cried in any films, not to sound, you know, big and tough or anything. It's just, you know, I'm not big and tough. It's just something I just don't do. But this film, because it is so real, you know, it's something that happened. This thing happened. And the way that the director manipulate, you know, Kurt Cudney, or I think that's his, I don't know, but the way he manipulates your emotions through a split second. You're laughing and then you're almost on the verge of crying. You know, the way he edits it is masterful. Yeah, I'd recommend this one. It's really great. Then I watched No Direction Home, Bob Dylan. Right, so this is 3.5 hours long, okay? and I am not a Bob Dylan fan. I watched this because Scorsese directed this. This is one of his music documentaries. I like maybe one or two of Dylan's songs. I don't hate the guy, I don't hate his music or anything like that. It's just, you know, I was not very interested in his life story because I'm not a big fan of him. He did a similar thing with George Harrison, 3.5 hour long music documentary about his life. I like George Harrison a lot, so I prefer that documentary because I actually really like George Harrison's music, and so I was really interested in hearing about him. Bob Dylan, no, I kind of, you know, I will appreciate and acknowledge that it is very well made, very well edited. I mean, come on, 3.5 hours long documentary with all the archival footage, with all the interviews edited together so well. That is an achievement, and it's very impressive. And then I watched Three Women, another Altman, yeah. I'm watching a few Altman, I want to watch a lot of Altman here. And this is a very interesting film, and I think most people, maybe most people when they watch it it isn't the type of film that grabs you, but it's really interesting. It's very surreal and dreamlike, which I enjoyed quite a bit actually. And I don't even know what went off in the film. And it isn't crazy surreal. You know, you can follow the story, there's a story, but something happens and it's a little unclear. And I like that. And I don't really want to watch any analysis or explanation about the film. I just want to watch it. I'll rewatch it, I'll watch some of the special features, I'll read the essay on this nice Arrow Academy Blu-ray and figure it out for myself for once, because I think that might be better, because I will be watching it, I don't know when, but I'll definitely watch it again because it is really good. Then I watched Hell's Heroes. It's unbearably boring. That's all I can say, it's just utterly boring. It's so boring. Then I watched Infernal Affairs. This was the original film, you know, The Departed was a remake. This was the original film. Interested in seeing similarities and differences. This one's shorter and more fast-paced, but Scorsese, his remake is so much more detailed in character depth. And yep, here we are, The Departed. I don't really know what to say other than the editing is a highlight. It's almost perfect. This film even might get 5 out of 5 next time I watch it. I've seen it, what, four times now, I think. It is super good. It's one of Scorsese's best directed films. And the cast, oh wow, the cast is phenomenal. Shine a Light, this was a concert film from Scorsese. It was on the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones are probably my favourite band, so it was great to hear some of their music. I actually enjoyed this one more, but unfortunately after a while the film does become quite flat. Unable to say or do anything unlike his other documentary, you know, The Last Waltz. Then I watched Shutter Island. I forgot how good this film was. It looks probably one of his best shot films, I must say. It looks great. Really gorgeous, actually. So yeah, it's definitely a top tier Scorsese. Then I watched Peeping Tom. Really interesting concept. Really lovely, beautiful looking film. Very creepy main central performance. And nice direction from Michael Powell. Yeah, I recommend this one. In a Lonely Place, this was good. I really enjoyed this. I spoke quite a bit about it in my 2 for £25 Criterion haul. If anyone's interested, I'd recommend picking it up. I watched Hugo. I've never watched this film before. Well, you know, I didn't rewatch it, you would know because the symbol will be there, but I only really enjoyed the cinema appreciation bit where, you know, Scorsese was kind of paying ode to silent films. I wish it focused more on that. It could have been a lot shorter. Then I watched Ministry of Fear. The first 20 minutes blew me away. I was like, wow, this is great. And it wasn't terrible for the next bits of the film, but it didn't grab me as much as it did the first 20 minutes. Then I watched The Wolf of Wall Street. What can I say that I haven't already said about this film? I mean, this film is very loud, it's very long, and any other director would have made this hard to sit through, but with the excess of drugs and sex. But when Scorsese directs it, and DiCaprio's performance, both of them hold this film together brilliantly. This is truly one of the best performances I've seen of DiCaprio. And then I watched Silence. This film is definitely Scorsese's best religious film. He wrote the film. It's very spiritual. It is so well directed. I can just tell that the score is going to go higher when I watch this film again and buy it on Blu-ray. It's very calm. It's very devastating. It is really that good. I couldn't recommend this film enough. Then I watched The Man with the Golden Arm. It's got a great performance by Frank Sinatra and Otto Preminger. First film that I've watched of Otto Preminger. His direction was really good in this. Rocky 3, yeah, this was... Well, I've never been I'm not a fan of Sylvester Stallone, okay? I've never really liked his performance in any film he's been in. He just kind of feels like he's doing the same thing. And this is very formulaic. It's pretty much the same formula as the other Rocky films. And I think people maybe like the comfort of knowing that, because shock horror, he wins. Sorry, minor spoiler. You could see it coming from a mile away. It's not the best. Then I watched 2 more Buster Keaton short films, Cops and My Wife's Relations, and both of them were really good actually. And My Wife's Relations, it was quite slow at the beginning, but the ending was a highlight. And then I watched The Irishman. Yes, now when I watched Hugo, after I watched Hugo, I would have watched every Scorsese film, but I've officially finished my Scorsese watching. Scorsese's cinematic mastery is on full display here. I don't really know what to say that hasn't already been said about this, and I'm running out of time here. The video's going to go on for too long anyway. Then I watched King Kong. It's really good. It's actually better. I would actually find this better than the original 1954 Godzilla. It's kind of one of the original monster movies as well. Really good. Then I watched A Few Good Men. The screenplay in this is brilliant. Performances are all good. Yeah. Classic Sorkin, really great, also nice direction. Then I watched Vertigo. This was really interesting. I'll talk more about this film probably when I rewatch it, but I've already watched a few essays on the film, and already I can see so much. Some of it I did pick up on. I thought, okay, I noticed that. I really enjoyed that bit, which I thought was, and I can definitely see why people find this to be Hitchcock's masterpiece. And hell, maybe one day when I've watched this film a few more times, I'll be saying that, and I hope I do. Hopefully I can be giving this a 5 out of 5, because it's not flashy at all. It's just really brilliant and precise direction, and you can really tell why people think Hitchcock is one of the greatest directors of all time, and I'd agree to that sentiment. Shortcuts, yeah, this is the film I was talking about that was brilliant from Altman. This is so good. It's my favourite of his. It's his best. The characters are so well written. It's so well paced for a film a little over 3 hours long. If it went on for another 3 hours, I would just be as happy to watch it. That the lives of these people are masterfully woven together. People deal with problems all the time, and it's all done behind closed doors. And this film, the door is open. Then I watched The Incredible Shrinking Man. It's a fun B-movie. Field of Dreams. It was fine. I don't like baseball. Well, why would I? I'm in the UK. We don't have that here. It has a lot of heart. I'll give it that. It's a little silly at points, but it wasn't. It was a. Then I watched King Kong vs. Godzilla, the 1962 Japanese version. It's always fun. I've finally completed my Godzilla Showa era set. Yeah, it's a good time, like any Godzilla film is. Then I watched The Manchurian Candidate. This was great. Another Sinatra performance that was brilliant, as well as Lawrence Harvey and Janet Leigh. There's a brilliant editing, something that happens. You'll get what I'm on about if it's very well edited, this part. And it's just a really great story in general, yeah. Then I watched Godzilla vs. Kong. Right, I'm not gonna analyse this film. I'm not going to pick apart what the colours mean, because very likely the colours mean nothing, even though, use of colour in this film is quite flashy. It's probably just there to make the film look nice, because it looks nice, it's okay. It's just a fun time. It's just a fun time. If you went into this film expecting a human drama, it's Godzilla vs. Kong, mate. You're not going to get a human drama. You're just going to get 2 big titans fighting. That's what you get. And I had a good time. That's all I can say. Then I watched Forbidden Planet. The production design and special effects are really quite cool. Definitely the best part, but I did find the story very disinteresting. There was something there. It could have worked, but it's technically nice, but I just wasn't engaged. And then finally, well, I don't know how long this video is going to be. If you've made it to the end, well done you. Inherent Vice. Gosh, my throat is killing me. I shouldn't watch loads of films, but I do. And I always forget that I've got to do this video. But yeah, I watched Inherent Vice. This was quite messy. I was really disappointed actually, because Paul Thomas Anderson has proven himself to be a brilliant film director. And this is borderline pretty bad actually. I've never wanted to say this, but it is quite bad. It's not awful. It was going for something. Obviously, it worked for some people, didn't work for me. I think he was going for something very narrowed down and very specific, and it was only that for the very specific audience, and I'm not that audience at all. He tried, he failed. It was interesting to see what he was trying to do. I definitely appreciate it, but I don't, you know, I'm not going to be rewatching it anytime soon, if ever. You know, it's just nothing I would recommend. I'd only say watch it if you're a big fan of Paul Thomas Anderson's work. You may get something out of it. Unfortunately, I didn't. So there we have it, everyone. That was every film that I watched in March 2021. Let me know what were your kind of highlights of last month. Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course, I will see you again in the next video. Bye.